Hello everybody, it is the 1st of May, which means it is a bank holiday over here. I'm looking disheveled because I definitely need to get my hair cut. I'm also feeling like the redness in my face is very pronounced recently, so I also might have to do something about that. But today we are here to start and talk about books because I think that I am going to have a really fun day because it is the 1st of May. I don't have to do anything, I don't have to be anywhere. It is amazing weather outside, but I'm not the type of person who loves to just like lay in the sun or whatever. It's very easily becomes way too warm for me, so I'll probably have a little bit of time that I will go outside and do a short walk and maybe take my book with me so that I can go and sit down somewhere to read. But I actually expect that to be like not that long, that after like half an hour of sitting outside and reading I might be like, okay, now I just want to go back inside in the shade. But what I actually want today to be is a day in which I can get some cleaning done. Now, the very optimistic side of myself yesterday evening was thinking maybe I can do the windows. And today's me is not as excited about that anymore. But I am doing the living room. I have actually finally like deep cleaned the sofa a little bit, but the sofa is just like, I think it's ruined. I think this fabric, I shouldn't have used like cleaning products on this fabric, and so I've tried to use more cleaning products now on the fabric to try and get the stains out of there, but I don't actually think that I'll ever be able to solve this on this particular sofa. But in any case, we have cleaned it. It is now fresher again in any case, and now the robot vacuum cleaner is doing a sort of like first sweep of the floor, and then afterwards I'll go through with a broom and then I'll go through with the mop. But I think while it is doing its sweep of the floor, I will actually be starting a Lego set because I am going to be spending my time with the audiobooks for Murderbot today, because I am still carrying one book over from Magical Readathon, and that is the reread prompt. So I started it last night and I have finished it already today, and that is the reread of All Systems Red by Martha Wells, the first book in the Murderbot series. So Murderbot is a series in which you're following a rogue sec unit. However, having hacked his government module hasn't really made much of an impact in his life in terms of what he does, because the best way to hide that he has hacked his government module is to keep on pretending like he has a working government module and just keep on taking on assignments and respecting the wishes of his owners, and so just following orders as he is expected to be doing, but he is using a lot of his time now to just enjoy the entertainment feed. And so on his most recent mission, he is just having a rather dull time while his crew is out on a sort of like foraging expedition in which they are kind of getting the lay of the land, seeing if they want to invest into this particular planet, and then they get attacked by something and this unfurls a whole plot. This is a book series that currently has like 7 books, I want to say. There is one coming out very soon, I think, as well, maybe in June, and I have read the first 5, I think, at some point. I reread the first 4 in June last year when I was on a trip with a friend, and then we had the audiobooks on while we were in the car, and yeah, I decided that I just want to reread them again. Like, I am somebody who has a horrible memory, and so I'm just going to go through them again. And I have to say that this reread of the first book, it's very clear that having seen the series is very much helping me in in following along to the story, because I can kind of match what I'm hearing to the images that I saw while I was watching the show, because I'm somebody who doesn't make images when I read, so I feel like that's sometimes really is a downside when it comes to fantasy or sci-fi, where I feel like it's difficult to kind of imagine everything if you don't make images in your head. So, or at least for me it is. And so that has definitely been helping me out, but now it's time to move on to the second audiobook, and so I'm going to be starting a Lego build. I haven't really decided on which one I'm going to be starting because I do have a few ones still left. So it'll be maybe the forest creatures or the northern landscape diorama, or I also have a Chinese dragon that I still need to build. I think I still have something else, but I'm not immediately thinking of the other one. But so yeah, I'll see what I still want to build now.
All of us could make bright our lives. In all of us, in our hearts, there's love and light that we must realize. We need to feel, we need to use this warmth that could make bright our lives.
Glamour shot. So I was actually supposed to take some footage of me doing some step aerobics as well, but I actually completely forgot because I was really into it. It was quite a difficult step class, but I managed to get through it. Mainly I ended up leaving out like the final 4 minutes or so of the actual routine because I just felt my knee was hurting a little bit, and I was like, okay, like they were doing at the end, she was doing the full routine 2 more times, and then I was like, yeah, okay, no, I think I need to go and skip to the cool down because I don't think that my knee is gonna help her like be very happy if I'm just gonna push it right now. So hopefully that is going to be, you know, getting better tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow it just comes out looking fine, and you know, so be it. And I won't be doing another step class in any case for a week probably, so you know, I have some time to let the knee relax. But I am now on to Murderbot 4. So I basically indeed have spent my entire day listening to Murderbot. I don't know whether I'm gonna finish Murderbot 4 tonight or whether I'm just gonna try and watch a movie or something like that. But in any case, I've read a whole ton already today. I've read like 500 pages. I really love Murderbot. I just love the character who's just like, you know, like this very competent sec unit who basically, you know, like knows how to deal with situations. He is like perfectly trained to handle a lot of situations, and he knows how to take control, how to lead, but he has always been in this sort of like subordinate position, and when it comes to human interaction he's very unsure and very insecure about every type of interaction, feels very anxious when it comes to eye contact, and when it comes to showing his real face to the people that he knows. I love his sort of like obsessions with this TV show called Sanctuary Moon, and I love how, you know, like ultimately he pretends to be this robot who doesn't really care, but every single person who kind of crosses his path as an innocent ends up being like rescued or protected by him, and I love that about him. And especially when we come to the second book, I love his interaction with a character called Art, and yet I think it might not be this one, it's probably the next one that we get Art and Murderbot together again, so I'm very much looking forward to that, because definitely when it comes to the first 3 novellas, these feel very separate from one another. It's not the case because they definitely do build upon one another, and you kind of need the story of the first to be able to understand what is happening in the second and the third, for example. But each of these first 3 stories to some extent are separate adventures, and then in the 4th novella we kind of bring some of these characters back together, for example. And the 5th one I think is the full-length one, and I think that is the final one that I have read, and I think I said earlier that like the next one is going to come out soon, and apparently it is available on audiobook on Tuesday, so I've chosen the perfect time to start my re-listen of Murderbot, and I definitely love the voice actor who does the voice work for this, Kevin R. Free. I think he does an amazing job with it. But I've also seen the Murderbot series season 1, and I really enjoyed that one. I hope that they're gonna keep on doing these. I don't know whether they are very popular, whether a lot of people are watching them. I hope so, because I definitely would like to see a continuation to this. But so yeah, I have just done a step workout, as I said. I am now just going to have a snack. I've earned it, and just wind down for the day. And then tomorrow's another day. I'll continue with a little bit more of cleaning, I guess, and editing. I think tomorrow needs to be an editing day because I need to get a video out there. Last week I didn't have a video, and so this is a precedent that we definitely want to be breaking. I don't want to be setting that precedent. I mean, I've already said it, but I don't want to be confirming that precedent by like not having a video come out this week, because like I've been happy that I haven't had a real hiatus this year the way that I had last year. We're just coming off of gymnastics seasons. I am definitely still kind of missing gymnastics and occasionally watching something gymnastics related to kind of scratch that itch, but I'm back to being able to kind of spend more time on reading and on filming and editing, so like we need to be making that switch right now. But as you can see, I've put on some facial cream. I have just taken a well-deserved shower that absolutely did miracles for me after that workout, and so I'm really ready to wind down and enjoy my evening. Hello guys, it is the Monday morning, Monday the 4th, and I have just finished my 5th book for the month, so we're going great. This is not intended to be a 31 books in 31 days, and I definitely also think that that is not going to happen unless I'm just gonna only read novellas this month, but that is not the goal, because the goal is actually to tackle this. So out of those 5 books, none of them have been physical reads that are on my TBR card. So, you know, the intention for this month was that, so in that regards, we can also consider this as a massive fail, right? But the real intention is to return back to the year of spontaneity, read what I'm feeling like reading, and that is definitely what happened, because basically the trigger for all of this was Magical Readathon, for which I needed to do a reread, and I start with the True to the Alecki, but like the first few pages in, I was like, there's no way that I can finish that within this month, so within the month of April, because it was already like late in the evening at that point, and I was like, you know what if I turn on Murderbot? And then I turned on Murderbot, and I also only just listened to like 10% of it that night, and then I was like, okay, never mind, let me use a scroll. I'm just too tired to try and get through this still tonight, and yeah, that's how I got started on my Murderbot reread. And then when I listened to the first Murderbot, I was just like, I just want to continue on, I just want to go back through it all. And so yeah, we have reread the first 5 books in the Murderbot series now, and I think today I might actually still reread the 6th one. I am also now physically reading a little bit in a physical book that I started in the month of April, and so that is definitely not going to be possible for me to finish today unless I'm really going to dedicate all of my time to physical reading. But I don't know. I don't know whether that is going to happen. I feel like I'm not really in a physical reading mood, so I'm just like spacing out the physical reading, just like reading a chapter, then taking a break with something else, reading another chapter and doing it like that, so that I can keep on having steady progress in it throughout the day, maybe even get some 100 pages into it today. But so that means that I will probably be listening to my audiobook. I do need to continue on my streak of walking for 1.6 kilometer every day, and I do need a 30-minute activity every day as well, so it'll probably just be a 30-minute walk. And then they are delivering something from the from like a store today to me, because I have been looking for a way to store my Lego sets, because currently I just don't have enough room to to display all of them, and some of them also just don't make sense to have it on display all the time, because for example every year I buy something around the time of Chinese New Year so that I can get like the little small gifted purchase that is like the animal horoscope of that year, and so I have 5 of them or so. I buy now, I think 6 probably, because one of them is in my bookcase always. So yeah, I have 6 or so of them, one that is like the animal of this year, but the others, they are basically just standing around in my little display cabinet, but they don't need to be. They of course don't take up that much space, but yeah, those would be, for example, ideal candidates to just like dismantle at the end of every Chinese year and then be able to store them until that year will come around again. But the main thing that needs to be dismantled at some point is my Hogwarts castle, because when Minas Tirith will be arriving, I need a place to put Minas Tirith on, and that is going to be the place where I'm going to be putting that. The Hogwarts castle, I'll probably borrow it out to my niece, so that she can kind of assemble it once. And so yeah, I basically bought this little drawer thingy in which I'll be able to store them. I want to still buy like some individual containers to put in the different drawers so that the set can kind of stay together at all times. But yeah, I'll do that once it arrives, because so now I feel like I'm stuck at home waiting for this to be delivered. It's too big for me to have it delivered to the parcel cabinet, which I typically do, so that I don't have this feeling of like I need to be home at all times or otherwise I'm gonna miss out on this package. But my hope is to still be able to go to another store close by to look for maybe some sort of like containers for the Lego sets. And it would also be nice if I were to be able to go to the garden center and potentially get some plants over there, maybe for the balcony, or maybe an indoor plant as well. I do have another one that passed away months ago, and so that emptiness can be filled as well. But so yeah, I have managed to catch up for the first 5 books of Murderbot. I definitely had a little bit more of a difficult time with the 5th one, but that's also just because it takes so much longer. So I was just feeling like I was, like it took me forever to get through it, but it also is like at least it's more than twice as long as the other novellas had been. And I definitely was also kind of losing steam, but also just because of doing other activities. I think on Saturday when I started, or was it Friday it was probably Friday, right, when I started listening to all of these? I guess. Yeah, it was Friday. So on Friday when I started listening to all of these, like I listened to 500 pages basically, but I also was doing some Lego at the time. I was cleaning, I was doing Lego, I was doing a lot of things that would allow for me to listen at the same time, whereas the past 2 days I haven't been doing any Lego, have not really done that much cleaning to combine with listening, but I have been filming and editing a little bit as well, and it's not like that took up all of my day, but it definitely meant that I just had less amount of time in which I was listening, and also just I was feeling less in the reading mood, I guess. I was feeling less like devouring stories. But so yeah, I have finished Murderbot 5 right now, and we're going into Murderbot 6, and Murderbot 6 is the final one that I need to reread. And it's the book that made me go like, I need to start all over because I am completely lost. So I actually have no idea what Murderbot 6 is about, but it might come back to me when I start re-listening to it. When it comes to these first 5, my brain is definitely sort of like more aware of what happens within them, because I've also re-listened to them in June of last year. So the 6th one is the first one that for which this wasn't the case, and the main reason for that was that at that time I was on a trip with a friend of mine and we were listening to the Dutch audiobooks, and the 6th one didn't have the Dutch audiobook yet at the time of our holiday, so we weren't able to listen to it, because we definitely still had some time on the trip itself, or maybe even on the, like, definitely on the way back we didn't listen to Murderbot. We were already done with the first 5 at that point, and so we definitely had more than enough time to have listened to the 6th one if it would have been available to us, but that was not the case, and so that can also be an explanation for why I don't really remember much about the 6th one. But I definitely feel like when I first listened to all of the Murderbots, I was definitely kind of treating them like these standalone adventures that of course definitely build upon one another, in the sense of like we have time passing chronologically between all of them, but I wasn't necessarily like holding on details about the discoveries that were made within the first novella, for example, for later use in later novellas. And they definitely do build upon one another in terms of its knowledge base, and I feel like, if my memory serves me well, by the time of the 6th novella I definitely felt like I don't have a foundation in this world. I didn't know enough about the particulars that we had learned up until this point to feel confident in following what was happening in the 6th book. So I'm actually quite curious to re-listen to the 6th one. I do think I want to kind of write down a little bit of the summaries for these first 5 in my reading journal first, because I've started doing that in the month of April. I wasn't very conscientious about it and I'm still very far behind, but I'm starting to kind of keep a little bit of a reading journal on my Notion app to kind of keep track of what happens in books and the endings, because I'm somebody who always forgets endings. And so I kind of want to start building a database of what I've read in that way, so that, you know, I can just kind of go back to that whenever I'm like, how did that book end again? And then I'm mainly talking about when somebody is discussing a book that I've read and they're like, oh, that ending, if you know, you know. And then I'm like, I should know, but I don't. And now I cannot talk about, like, now I don't understand her feelings because I don't actually remember what happened. So in those types of situations, I can just go back to my reading journal at that point in time. But so yeah, I am now going to move the footage that is on this camera at the moment into my PC, because I have managed to film and edit quite a few bits of like the March and April wrap-up contents. I still need to film the April Heard Yet update, and I still need to edit the March Heard Yet update. And so the March Heard Yet update is on this camera at the moment, so I'm gonna put that into my computer so that I can have that video ready. And then by the time that the next double weekend comes around, I have more than enough time to move to the further content, but everything in between will already be edited, uploaded and scheduled at that point in time, then, if I just get this one video still done today. So yeah, that is my goal, that's what I'm gonna be doing, and so yeah, I'll check in with you guys when I have read something else. Today is a not so great day. I look very disheveled, and I finally at like 3:30 or something like that managed to make it outside and at least go for some coffee. So I have brown sugar latte, bubble tea with tapioca pearls, because I really wanted them, and all day I've been like, okay, my hair definitely needs to be washed, but I also want to do a workout today, and so I don't want to wash my hair before I've done the workout, because then I just have to wash my hair again, you know? And so I basically had a super slow morning. It took me about 3 hours between like 3.5 hours actually, between when I first woke up and when I actually decided to leave the bed. And yeah, I've read a little bit today, but aside from that, I've watched It Takes Two, because it appeared on my Netflix, you know, like homepage, and I was like, yeah, we'll bring back that nostalgia. And so yeah, I haven't been doing anything, and we are going to embrace this for today. Like tomorrow, let's get some more movement in, let's get some things done. I wanted to go to the cinema today. That's definitely not happening because that would be like in less than an hour at this point in time, and yeah, then we have the same hair dilemma. Then I would need to wash my hair, because I did now finally make it out, because I was like, okay, it makes no sense to order this bubble tea online, because it's really like, it's less than a kilometer away, you know. So I will just walk there looking disheveled, and you know, if people want to judge me for that, then let them be. Let them do, because I just cannot be bothered today. But so yeah, I have, since our last update, finished another Murderbot, maybe even two. I don't know when I last updated you guys anymore actually, but I've read System Collapse now, so I am one Murderbot further into the series than I was before, and I actually only have one to go. I was not caught up on time because I finished it like a day after the new Murderbot was released, so I cannot say that I caught up to it, which would have been nice, because then in her kit you can earn quite some points, but that didn't end up happening. And I did actually turn on the new Murderbot as well, but I was just not, my brain was not focusing that day, and that was like yesterday basically. And so when I came home, I was like, okay, we'll have to try that again some other day. And then even when I was reading the Raven Scholar, even though I'm really enjoying the Raven Scholar, I read like 2 chapters in it, and I was like, okay, my brain is just not reading today, okay? So the streak is intact, but I read not a lot yesterday. But so yeah, today I definitely do want to do more reading, and I have definitely already read quite a fair bit in the Raven Scholar, because that is the new book that I'm reading. So I'm currently reading like 4 books at the same time, but technically speaking, one of them I've only read like the prologue for, I guess, or reread the prologue for, and I haven't continued. So that one basically I just need to start from scratch again when I do finally decide to put my full effort on it. But so the 3 that I'm actively reading is By Blood, by Salt, the Raven Scholar, and I guess Platform Decay isn't even true because I have to reread it. So basically I've only started 2 and I'm really enjoying both of them. By Blood, by Salt, I do feel like this week I've been neglecting, because I just had that itch for something new. And even though I've been starting new Murderbots all the time, because they're a continuation of the same characters and the same storyline, it isn't scratching that itch. And so I felt like, okay, I want to start something new, so I started the Raven Scholar, and I've been dedicating most of my time to that, to really kind of get engrossed in that, and that has also really like taken my mind kind of. I also feel like in By Blood, by Salt, the point where I'm at was a nice little bit of a pausing moment, in the sense of like, we've done one part of the story, and now things are about to change. So I didn't stop like in the middle of the action or something like that. I definitely want to get back to it soon. I just have been focusing a little bit more on the Raven Scholar right now. And so the Raven Scholar I really like. So it's a book in which we are looking at this girl who is part of the Raven Society, and she at an early point in her career basically was given the offer of writing somebody's execution order, more or less. And her best friend her best friend and lover at the time was kind of like, don't do that, like it's not worth it. And she's like, yeah, somebody else is just gonna write it, so I will write it. Now this kind of follows her from that point onward. People look at her with a lot of disdain for being the one who has written the order, and her relationship fell apart over it. And so however many years later we meet back up with her. She has gained like the highest office that a Raven can achieve within her country, and the Emperor, who has basically put her in that place, is about to step down, at which point there will be trials held between each of the 8 sort of like guardian nations. So like they're all represented by these animals, such as the tiger, the wolf. Is it a wolf? I think so. Or the fox. The tiger, the fox, the bear, the raven, the monkey, the ox. I will have forgotten some here, I'm sure. And they will go head to head to figure out who's going to be the new emperor. So that's basically also where I'm at. I haven't gone into the next part of the synopsis that I've read, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying reading from our character. I also thought it was interesting that our prologue starts from another character, a perspective that I grew to care deeply for, and I think that that person is now dead. So don't get attached too quickly, I guess. This is kind of like what happened when I started reading Game of Thrones, and then like Bran fell down the tower in like the first chapter, and that was like the one character I enjoyed the most, and then it was like, what? But I wanted him to go on all these grand adventures and climb all these things like he was doing in the first chapter, and I think Bran's story is still interesting, but I also don't think he gets a lot of focus, whereas he was the character that I was like most drawn to from the beginning. But I definitely also like our protagonist Nima that we are following right now, and have very much enjoyed the story thus far, so I'm very much looking forward to continuing on with that, which is what I'm going to be doing now while enjoying my bubble tea, and then I'll hopefully finally find the motivation to do a workout, because I'm gonna do a step workout today, so I know I'll have a good time. I enjoy doing step. It's just that, you know, I've been feeling a little bit in a funk all day, and so I've just not been doing anything basically. I've just been either sat in a bed or sat on the sofa thus far today.
Deze soorten de helemaal niet snel zijn. Want ze wel die kunnen een seconde afstand over met zo weinig mogelijk moeite naar binnen. Heel stevig.
Yeah. It has been raining. My hair is not really looking amazing because it's dealing with the rain that it had yesterday, and today I ended up deciding that I was gonna go for that 40k ride with a walk in the zoo of Plankendaal, and so I have no regrets, but I definitely was at some point thinking like, oh my god, because yesterday I had basically decided at some point like, yeah, I don't think that I am gonna be able to go to Plankendaal because it's gonna be raining all day. But when I checked the weather forecast again this morning, it seemed like it was gonna be fine, and then it was gonna rain for like an hour or so around 1 o'clock, and then it would be fine again until 5. When I was in Plankendaal around 11:30 or something like that, I checked it again. It was like, it's gonna be sooner than that. And so I realized that I would have to kind of try and aim for getting out of there by 12:30. And that didn't end up happening. Okay, so at some point I started to hear the rumble of thunder. At that point I was at like the furthest point in the park and like the final part of the park that I still had to do. So I did know that I could get out probably in the next half hour. But then I was like, okay, let me already put on my rain gear, because definitely it was like clear that, you know, there were some benches over there, so it was going to be easier to do it over there. And that's when the rain started basically. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm just gonna go to the toilet over here for a final time before my hour cycling back, and then you know, I'll shelter here for a little bit until it goes down slightly, so just a little bit further, and then I can, you know, go for yeah, my trip back once this rain shower is kind of lowering, because then it really looked like it was just going to be on and off for the rest of the day. Luckily that didn't end up being the case. So when I cycled home, I actually had really good weather for the majority of the time, like to the extent that I stopped in order to take my hood off from underneath my helmet, because it was like, it's looking so good. It's sunshine at the moment, I'm loving the weather. And then by the time that I got back, like right before I got back home, is basically when it's kind of started up again. But so yeah, I had a good time today, and I was listening to the final 3 hours of the audiobook that I was listening to, which is Cursed Cocktails. And so in honor of Cursed Cocktails, I made myself a little bit of a cocktail. We'll see about cocktail, because basically I just winged it. So I didn't really measure it out. This is supposed to be like a caipirinha, so it's just like limes, sugar and rum, because basically, you know, after spending hours listening to cocktails being described, I was like, I need a cocktail, okay? So yeah, this is what I decided was the easiest for me to make based off of the ingredients that I have in the house, because aside from different types of alcohol, I basically only have like lychee juice and Coca-Cola in the house at the moment. So I was like, what am I gonna make with that? But I did have all the ingredients for this. Now, Cursed Cocktails is an indie cozy fantasy by S.L. Rowland, in which we're looking at this guy who's basically part of the Northern Guard, and he has been spending a big part of his life defending the realm, fighting behemoths, and he's what is known as a blood mage. Blood mages are kind of revered but also very much feared by a lot of people within this realm, because they can do extreme damage, but also their magic comes at a high cost because it causes them extreme pain, and most blood mages either don't see their retirement date, or they don't get to enjoy it all that much because they are dealing with the crippling pain over having used their magic for such a long period of time. Now, our protagonist is a guy who has just retired, and he takes the advice of some people along his way to go to the south in hopes that his pain will be lessened when he goes to southern climes. And he also is traveling with a notebook that his father left him, in which he was documenting cocktails because he had a real passion for it, and his big wish was to one day own a cocktail bar. And so he is going to be traveling to the south, where he's going to meet a bartender who is going to introduce him to some of these cocktails that his father has left him with. And so yes, it is a cozy fantasy. I'm not going to say all that much more about it because it is on the shorter side, and yeah, it's a cozy fantasy dealing with cocktails, the owning of a bar, the prejudices surrounding blood mages, opening yourself up to new opportunities, looking for a new destination to life after retirement, after you've spent most of your life dedicated to one particular thing, and you find yourself now at a new stage in life trying to figure out what your next sort of like goal in life is, or what are you going to spend the rest of your time with. Enjoyed this one a whole lot, enjoyed the characters, but as I said, I need a cocktail now. And that is too much rum. Cheers, guys. Make myself another cocktail. It's a little bit less boozy in the meantime, because I already drank a little bit of the booze that was lying on top, but I am quite happy with it because I have tried to do the layering thing in the past and it didn't really work out, so I don't know whether this is just a better combination of liquids to have that sort of effect, or whether my pouring technique is better because of listening to an audiobook about people making cocktails. In any case, what I wanted to talk to you guys about now is the fact that I have finished another book. So it is Friday, but today I basically read not that much. Thus far I've read 68 pages today, started a new book. I am continuing very, very slowly in By Blood, by Salt, but I think that it's not going to be done for this video, so I'm just going to talk about the final book that I have finished thus far and call it quits for that, and then just start a new vlog tomorrow. But luckily, the final book that I have read is a 5-star read. Cursed Cocktails, I would also say, is a 5-star read, but it's definitely like a 5-star read. It's just like a 5-star read because I don't really have any problems with it. I enjoyed it. It was wholesome. It was fun. It was everything that it needed to be. But this is definitely a 5-star read in that, you know, I was super invested in it. I was loving every second of it. Wanted to keep on turning the pages, especially towards the ending. I would still say that it's not the type of 5-star where I'm like, oh my god, I cannot believe how amazing this book was, but I really, really enjoyed it a whole lot, and it does do a lot of twists and turns and twists upon twists, so when you think you know the twist and then there's another twist later on. But so yeah, I think I've talked about the basic concept of this book, but the things that I really loved about it were the competition aspect, and you know, if you love a book set, like a book that deals with a competition storyline, then this is really right up your alley, because that is definitely like the main storyline that takes place within this story, because it also has a murder mystery element to it, but I would say that that is probably a little bit secondary to the competition part of it, and that less attention is spent on that, and basically the murder mystery element of it kind of leads to a reveal that will be important for the competition element of the whole story and the overarching story of the story, but it is not a sort of like means of its own, and so I probably cannot count it for r/fantasy, because I originally was gonna count it for that, where it was sort of like it's a murder mystery and like the main plot line of the book is murder mystery, and I'm like, having read it now, I don't think I can say that the main plotline is the murder mystery that happens within this one, but it definitely is a little bit of a catalyst to get things going and to make us discover certain dangerous truths. What I like a lot about this book is that we definitely have a lot of attention spent on the repercussions of the exile that happens at the beginning of the book, and the way in which different characters are grappling with the actions that they took at that time, or the actions that they took part in at that time, maybe out of duty in certain cases, but definitely voluntary choices in other cases. And another thing that I really enjoyed was seeing how, and I just loved seeing how that one small prologue that we got at the very beginning of the book just kept on being sucked into the events taking place throughout this book, kept on being so pivotal and so central to the later plots. I also really enjoyed the twists and turns that were coming along the way. There are some twists within the middle book, there are some twists in the middle of the book, later on in the book. There's a twist that I kind of thought was gonna be the case, and then it turned out not to be the case, but then it was like more or less what I thought was happening with one character was actually happening with another character, so I gave myself a half pat for that, you know, like, okay, I didn't actually get it right, but I did eerily predict the same type of thing happening with just the wrong character. I also really enjoyed our relationship within this one, looking at the relationship between Kane and Nima. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the sort of like hurt and resentment that is lingering on the side of Kane over the decisions that Nima has made in her past, and how he kind of wants to hold these things against her, but how he also is just so close to Nima and knows her so well that you can see his protective streak, and the side of him that used to love her is still there and is still trying to make an appearance. And yeah, I am not gonna say too much more, I think, because I don't know whether I can say too much more without actually going into the spoilers, because that is part of what I really enjoyed about this one as well. But as I said, it was a page turner. I really wanted to see what was going on, what reveals we were going to get, what secrets were being kept, and I enjoyed that there are multiple times within this book where you kind of feel like you know what's going on, and then the thing is kind of slightly like changed, or like, you know, there's a slight twist to it, so that it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. It is there's a slight difference, sort of like nuance to it, or whatever we want to say. But so yes, I enjoyed myself a lot with this one. But now I found out that the sequel is only coming in November 2027, and I'm like, really? You're gonna make me wait so long for this sequel? Okay, I guess. But I am happy to have read this now, to have embraced my wish to just pick it up, even though it was not going to count for anything for Herc yet, and to have found myself on the same side as a lot of people have found themselves on since this book came out, as in, I am pleasantly surprised by it, and I think it was one of the strongest fantasy books that came out last year, of the ones that I have read, of course. But so yeah, that is gonna be my progress this week when it comes to the books that I'm reading. I have already read 10 books at this point in time. If you were here for my first 3 wrap-ups of the year, you know that I read 10 books in the month of January, 10 in February, and 10 in March, and we are the 15th of May, and I've read 10 books this month. Obviously, if we're looking at page stats, that is going to be a little bit different, but even then, I am already like over 2,000 pages read at this point in time in the month, so it's looking like that Murderbot streak has earned me a lot of pages, books, and a lot of like street cred, you know, when it comes to my book reading. But so yes, I've had a good month so far. I've definitely embraced the read whatever you want type of deal. And yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into the second half of the month. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!